Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back, guys, to Flip the Script with Vic. I am so excited. I could geek out about the Akashic Records all of the time. So today's guest makes my heart really excited. Michelle and I met on Instagram through Lauren Love, I think, right? Shout out Lauren Love.
Yeah.
And we both have such a deep knowledge of and love for the Akashic Records. And so I wanted to bring Michelle on, A, to support her, but also to hear her perspective around Akashic perspective, about being a modern day witch, about accessing these psychic realms. And yeah, I would love for you to just introduce yourself, Michelle. I'm stoked we're here. Like I'm so excited.
Yeah, this is really great. Thank you for having me on the pod. So my name is Michelle Elizabeth. I also go by Michelle Multidimensional on Instagram, and I am an Akashic guide as well as a multidimensional trauma healer. And I'm also in the digital product space. So I call myself a digital product priestess. Um,
Love that.
I think of all the healing modalities, and trust me, I have studied so many different modalities throughout the years. I really, really love past life regression hypnotherapy. And I think that for a really long time, I didn't realize that I was in the Akashic Records, like
Most
doing
people
work.
don't.
I was in there. I was already in there. But yeah, so of all the healing modalities, I think the Akashic Records are actually my favorite. They've been the most transformational for me as well as my clients. The transformations that I have witnessed people go through from building a personal relationship and a personal, dedicated, devoted practice to the records untouchable. Like I've never seen anything more powerful in my personal work as a healer with my clients. So just excited to talk about this and to share this medicine with more people.
Yeah, because so my journey started with the records probably in 2018-ish, and I'd never even heard of them. I had no clue what they were. And then it felt like they were following me everywhere. That every podcast I listened to, like Oracle cards I pulled, I'd pull the Akasha card. And so I feel like there was a part of me that remembered and that knew like this ancient part of me wanted to be recognized and wanted to be seen again and wanted to be connected to. And I mean, there are no coincidences. Like my mentorship and training happened almost immediately afterwards. I got a reading, she had a training. It was like, okay, like we're accessing the records. But for some people, to you, I now trying to explain it like it's the quantum field, but really we're just getting into like a meditative state, right? And moving energy. Or do you experience the records in a different way?
So I really do like to think of it more as an attunement. Like
Yes, like
we
Reiki.
are,
I say that a lot. Like we're just attuning
yeah,
your energy.
we're attuning to the records.
Yep.
And the records are always around us. So the way that it works, like for me, the way that I've structured it in my brain is like I've done a deep study of like the multidimensionality. So the map of the dimensions, and I go by the 12 dimensional system. Um,
Ooh, share more about that with people.
yeah, so basically, when you look at a map of all the dimensions, you'll see it like kind of stacked on top of each other, like a circle in the middle, which is one, and then two, and then three, and building out like that. But the way that it actually is you are in the center of that first dimension, and all the dimensions are actually around you all the time. You're in the dimensions all the time. It's not like you're only in the third dimension. No, there's like other dimensions that are connecting in and like
Simultaneously happening around you.
exactly. So
Yeah.
the Akashic records are actually in the eighth dimension.
Yep.
And the eighth dimension is so what's interesting is that the fourth dimension and the eighth dimension are very similar, except for that the fourth dimension is basically everything related to you and your soul story. It's the dimension of time. So if you go into the fourth dimension, what you'll see is like a grid of time, and each of the little pockets of the grid will be scenes of your personal life story, whether it's this timeline or others. And like the way that I like to think of it is like if you draw a sun that has rays, the center of the sun is your higher self. The rays coming out are like all the different timelines that your soul has lived, and they're all happening at the same time. That's the fourth dimension. But if you go into the eighth dimension, it's that, but for everybody. And it's like everybody, all plants, animals, and minerals as well. And I was actually listening to a YouTube video last night, and it was like Oh, it was Matthias de Stefano. I love Matthias de Stefano. And he was talking about how in like the creation of the universe and like the different, like the Elohim and we're getting into like the sixth and ninth dimensions now. But basically he was saying when we were creating humans, when we were starting to create like the earth and physical matter, the elements were the first things to be born. So fire, earth, water, air, ether. And so each of those, they're considered beings, they're considered deities, and they
Yeah,
have Akashic
energies.
records. Like there are Akashic records of minerals for that reason, because they like everything was birthed through minerals first, and water. And so yeah, that's that. Like I love thinking about it in that way too. Like it's not just people, it's like everything around us. We're all always connected into it. And our bodies also carry Akashic records as well.
Yep, absolutely. Like I have heard recently that actually our bodies need to be attuned to the Akashic records here on Earth. That we've been doing so much work in like the Pleiades and in the different star formations that actually right now our mission is to seed more of ourselves on Earth. And that means
Exactly.
going to the center, tapping into the Akashic record there. And I think the dimension aspect is so interesting because you hear a lot about it in spirituality, right? Like, oh, the 3D, like it's not
Mhm.
that you're meant to escape the 3D, actually. I feel like you're tuning yourself to all of the dimensions so that you can carry that spectrum, that you can carry all energies of all the different dimensions, and that actually you come to complete wholeness when you're able to alchemize all of them all at once, which is like very rare. It doesn't happen often. That's like enlightenment.
Mhm.
But that really interacting with the energies around us is what we're here for. And I love also that you shared about the Akashic records being across the spectrum in regards to minerals and animals and plants. And I've opened the Akashic record to my house before. Actually, before we bought the house, I opened the record and asked.
I love that.
And, the house itself was like, I just need more love. Like, yes, I'm a safe space, but I've been neglected. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I can work with that, and I think it's really cool to actually interact in that way. But if you ever like, I was taught not to open the records of anyone under 18 because you could be like messing with karmic stuff. Were you taught that as well?
Yeah, generally, I think 18. And then also, obviously, you want to always have consent for any like human being
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that you're opening the records for. I haven't tried opening the records on my cats yet, but I kind of want to.
Oh my God, that would be so fun. Ah, I would love that. And like,
Akashic records readings for your cats.
it's the next thing you'll be offering. So, the records, I truly believe they find people when they're ready for them, when they're ready
Totally,
to open themselves like to the infinite possibility of really what's out there for them. And it
totally.
can really blow your mind because you're like, actually, I can do anything and everything exists all at once simultaneously. That can be a little paralyzing. Do you ever find like in sessions with clients or even when you're reading the records because they're mutable and because they give you the information that you need in the moment that
Mhm.
actually it's less paralyzing than you would think because you're being really guided?
Yeah, I've not ever had the feeling of being, I think for me, any kind of overwhelm that I have felt has come from, and this is something I actually do want to talk about, has come from the attunement, like the multidimensional awareness that opens up as you begin to work with the records, because this is something that I have found to be a really big part of the work. And I actually always compare it to that movie Arrival. I don't know if you've ever seen Arrival with
Oh,
the aliens that land, and then the lady is she's like a speech specialist, and
okay.
she goes in to learn the language of the aliens. And essentially, thought, I'm going to spoil it for you.
I
Sorry.
probably won't
Still
watch it, so
watch the
that's fine.
movie. Essentially, she ends up getting taught this language by the aliens that shifts time. And so it shifts like her perception of time. And they're like, yeah, we taught you this language so that you could go and share this with the world and like help people process time differently, essentially teaching people that time is nonlinear.
Yeah.
And so I always think of that movie when I'm explaining this, because it's like when you start to work in the records regularly, your multidimensional awareness will open up, which is why I teach about the different dimensions in my Akashic course. And your perception of time is going to shift. Things are going to start to feel less linear for you. And you are going to have really tripped out moments, like synchronicities are going to increase. This is a sign that your frequency is increasing.
Yep.
And essentially, yeah, like you're going to be living less in the just the 3D, and like you're going to be opening up more to the 4D and the 5D and integrating those dimensions in as well. And so that's like a really important thing to know about Akashic work. And so when I think about things like the feeling of overwhelm, it more so comes from that, but it's not necessarily overwhelm. It's just like, okay, the way that I have structured my reality is changing. And like
Yes.
I now have to
Yes.
process that internally and like just, adjust the way that I am, my belief system.
Yeah, the way I'm interacting with the world, the way that
Yeah,
like
so it's
I'm
most of that.
moving. Yeah. Yeah, because I feel like the for me, I will say the guides that come through and things like that for clients, try and meet them where they are for the most part. So like you're not going to have something totally crazy come through that makes no sense for you. But I do think sometimes the Akashic Records will hold you to hard truths and
Mhm.
will show you where you're like sabotaging yourself a little bit, and you have to like be willing and open, right, to listen to that. And I think too, once I started to realize that like I was a living embodiment of my Akashic record,
Mhm.
things changed because I at first, I felt like, oh, this record was outside of me, right? It was this thing that I had to tap into. And then as I got more in touch with my own self, my own inner world, my own inner guidance system, I came to realize like, no, it's actually not outside of me. It is me. I am the record. And I
Mhm.
can tap into any of the dimensions, any part of the spectrum at any point that I want to. And now I don't even need to say like a prayer to access the records anymore. I don't know if that's been your experience. When I first opened them, I was very, and you should always come with reverence, always come with an open heart. Like the records will let you in. I've found as long as you're coming with pure intentions. But like really getting yourself in there and open with them, I feel like changes you on a cellular level. Like it changes almost everything about you.
Absolutely. It 100% does. Yeah. And I always teach my students like the pathway prayer, which is the main way that we go in. So let's talk about a couple of different ways that you can go in. Actually, I think that's a good place
Yeah,
to
because I
start.
feel like everyone probably does it differently. And that's something I share with my students, right? Is like, this has been my practice, but I want
Yeah.
you to form your own practice. And the words of the prayer, that's what I was going to say before, was that I was really caught up on the words of the prayer for a long
Mm,
time. And I remember when I published my first book, asking the records, like, do I have permission to put this in print? Like, can I say this? And what came through was really that like the words didn't even matter, that it was
mm.
the energy. That like as long as I was coming in the energy, that was it. You were good, you know?
Beautiful. Yeah. I think that having a prayer in the beginning is really helpful because you're forming your connection
Connection.
and you're
Yeah.
forming your personal sort of like groove, literal pathway
Yeah.
in. Um, so it can be really supportive as like you're first getting started. However, I will say, like one of my clients in my recent run of Healing the Akash, she's a trance channeler. And so, yeah, so freaking cool. Yeah, her trance channeling gift actually came online during some past life regression work that we did together like last
That's
year.
cool.
And so her and I have just been like, I'm like, you're a dream client. Like you're like a case study client.
Exactly. It's like you're awakening to all of these different parts of yourself.
So
Like,
cool. But
cool.
so she actually goes into the records through drumming.
Oh, that's cool.
So she'll drum like for 7 to 10 minutes and take herself into the records through drumming. And so you can go in through drumming, you can go in through a prayer, you can go in through a visualization.
Yep.
You can even go in just through setting an intention. And the only reason why I think it's important in the beginning to start with prayer is because it's like a surefire way to go in, and then you
Yes.
can start to recognize what the frequency feels like so that when you do set your intention, you'll know you're there. Right?
Exactly. Like
So it's
when I
like,
first started, it was like a
mhm.
heaviness in my body. Like I was like, oh, okay, I've arrived. Now I don't feel that anymore. Now that I've been working with the records for so long, it's shifted. And that was an interesting change. I would love to talk about if you've experienced that because when I first opened them, I like to tell my clients it was like word vomit. Like I would
Mhm.
just channel and say stuff. But now it's more embodied. And now like I'm guiding people through meditations or moving energy in their body or connecting with their, inner child, going to a past life. Like we could literally do anything in a session now, and I love that. Did you have a kind of shift and change in how you've connected over the years, or it stayed the same since the beginning?
So, like I said, when my spiritual awakening started in 2013, which obviously I've been on a journey my whole life, but I was really aware that I was in a spiritual process in 2013. It was very undeniable. I started with past life regression work, and so I was doing Akashic work from the
Then,
get-go.
yeah, and didn't know
Mhm.
it. Yeah.
Um, yeah, and so just in knowing that, the way that I have related to the records has become different in that it's become a lot more intentional and I've become a lot more just like aware. Sorry, somebody
Oh, no,
just
you're
tried to
good.
call me. Are we still good? Okay.
I feel like, is that a
Sorry.
message? Is that a message from the records? Are we still good?
Anyways, it's just become a lot more intentional. But when I actually go into the records, I feel a lightness of being. So it's interesting that you're saying the heaviness because I actually feel like lightness, like I'm being like pulled upward.
Ooh.
Um,
You envision like a whole light channel
I
situation?
do.
Okay. I kind
I
of do
always
as part of the prayer, but I don't do it the whole time.
So that's another thing we should talk about too. Yeah, like so having some sort of energetic cleansing practice before going into the records
Yes.
is really
And
important.
out of like
And
that to me
Olive,
is
yeah.
like one of the biggest things I teach people
It
because
can
I'm
be
like,
anything. It can be whatever you want yours to
yep.
be, but you should have something to cleanse and clear your field before you go in. But I do like to work with light to clear my spine, my channel, and I do the tantric Sushumna Nadi breath.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and then yeah, so breath work and then the visualization of the light up the spine is what I like to do.
I love that because I do think it's important. Anyone listening that's never experienced the Akashic Records, I also feel like I should say, you're never going to connect with anything bad, quote unquote, in the records. Because I do feel like people ask me that sometimes where they're like,
Yeah.
well, how am I going to know what I'm connecting to? And you're connected to your own spirit team.
Mhm.
So whoever you feel comfortable with, most likely is going to come forward. Like I, especially in client sessions, like we'll have different goddesses or different beings come forward that the person is comfortable with. Like if they're a Christian, like it's going to probably be like a Mary Magdalene or a Mother Mary, like if they're more open to different goddesses, they might have like a Kali or that kind of energy come through, but it's usually related to again in their own sphere of reference. Like
Mhm.
I'm not going to have like this crazy, I don't know, alien being want to come in to someone that's not open to that. Like you are very much in control of what you are open to. And I think that's important to share because I kind of went down like the galactic path for a little bit and was like
Oh, I'm there.
connecting with like not only like the Pleiades, but they were like little blue men and like they were kind of pranksters. And so anyway, there was a bit that I was like letting these energies in and it kind of scared me because I was like, I don't want to let anything in my field that I don't want here because I've had to
Yeah,
cut off like energetic attachments from
totally.
intergalactic things. And I say that not to scare people, but to say like whatever you're open to is what you will allow.
Mm,
And so you've got to
yeah.
be careful with that.
I think that obviously, anytime you're doing psychic work, you should be discerning. And that the way that you can tell if something is for you or not for you is always going to be a resonance in your heart space. If something doesn't feel resonant, then it's not for you, and you can just kindly send it away.
Yep.
Um, and even when working with the records, I do have a protection prayer that I always say because, sorry, my cat is like Um, I do have a protection prayer that I always say just out of good practice, but the records are extremely high vibrational and you're definitely not going to get any attachments from the records. In fact, you can go into the records and clear attachments from your
Yes.
body and from your system. Um, Especially if you start drumming while you're in
Mm.
the records. That's a really good way to clear any energies that are like not of light from your body. And I love to always empower my clients with the tools and the understanding of how to clear things from their own system rather than always coming to me to help clear things, even though I can help you clear things. Virtually or in person, but I think it's really important to be able to work in your own system and have tools to clear things out. But yeah, there's nothing is going to attach to you from the records. However, when you are doing psychic work and you are opening, your channel up to other beings, and maybe you're in meditation and you're not quite in the records, or you're doing other things, there's always the potential for attachments. And so it's just important to have an understanding of what your energy feels like. You need to know what your pure energy feels like so that you can detect when there's anything foreign present, so that
Absolutely.
you can say, something doesn't quite feel right.
Yeah,
Like
something is not
right.
me. And people, I think, don't know themselves well enough to do that, unfortunately. But I love that, like, as part of our teachings, that's what we're helping people understand is their own energy. Because it's from this energy that we're going to birth the new paradigm, that we're going to move forward into this new Aquarian age. And it's rocky right now, right? Like, all of the old systems are having to crumble so that we can step into this new way forward. What does this new earth leadership look like for you, especially as like a female entrepreneur, as someone that is trying to seed more light on this planet? What's on your heart about that? Like what has that journey been like?
I think I have two parts. The first thing that I actually want to address is the what you're speaking of with the crumbling, because one, that's happening on a collective level right now, obviously.
Mhm.
When you start to work in the records, when you start to attune your energy to a higher vibration, there are going to become parts of your life that become blatantly, glaringly obvious are not in alignment. And so you need to be ready and prepared for there to be some crumbling
Mhm.
as you attune. Okay, so I just want to address that because you mentioned the crumbling. I'm like, oh yeah, we need to
Yes,
talk
no,
about that.
that's important because people they cling. They cling in the crumbling and make it harder on themselves
Trust me,
because
I've been in it all year.
like, and again, me too, but it's like the
I could
crumbling is
teach on this
happening for a
topic.
reason. The crumbling is happening for a reason. That foundation wasn't steady. That
I could
foundation wasn't strong?
I could teach on this topic.
Yeah,
But yeah, so like just be aware of that.
it's important.
But yeah, so your question of like what does New Earth leadership look like? I think that it's really anytime we talk about like New Earth leadership, I think about like what makes a really good leader. And that is somebody that is like really embodied in the work that they teach, and also like has gone through like some guttural depth of being, purging and cleansing to the point where they are able to meet other people at that depth of being and hold space for those processes as they unfold. Because the reality is that if you are somebody that is called to the path of any type of spiritual healing work, um, it's not only part of your destiny and your soul contract, but it is a lifelong initiation. And it
Unfortunately or
is
fortunately.
and it is like something to really, a process to really have a lot of reverence for. And so I have so much respect, like, for anyone and everyone that does this work, even if they're at a place in their path where they're not fully embodied, because it's like, you're on your way.
Right? Well,
Life
and
will
I don't
teach
think
you.
like people don't realize embodiment takes time.
It
Like it
takes
takes
so much time.
integration. Like it's not going to just happen overnight and we want a quick fix. No, you've got to
It takes
walk the
so
walk
much
for
time.
a bit, to actually be able to, it's like after we were talking before we started recording about plant medicine, but
Hmm.
it's like a plant medicine ceremony essentially. Like you have to integrate afterwards because if
Yep.
not, like, well, what the fuck was the point if you're just going to keep on like repeating the same patterns or not making the changes. And, we get stuck in these cycles, but you cannot create change from the same energy that caused that stuck cycle. You
Yeah,
either
the
have
same level
to,
of consciousness.
Mhm.
Repeating patterns, I will say, is okay. It's going to happen. It's
Fair,
going to happen. I think that
fair.
like, and I just made a post about this because it's more so about the energy that we meet the repetitive cycle with. Like when
Ooh.
we first go into this like process where we're having this cycle and like we're noticing it repeating, like the second time we're noticing it repeating, we're probably still going to be feeling some anger, rage, frustration, sadness, grief, like all of these things around that process and that pattern. But when you are engaging in that cyclical pattern, and instead of feeling those things, and don't bypass those feelings, by the way, don't Like pretend you're not feeling them. If you're feeling them, feel them. But when you get to the part where you feel compassion for yourself in your process versus anger about this repeating again, and instead you're like, okay, I see you. I'm here for you. Like this is what's happening. Like you literally feel like a love in your heart because it's like in the repetition of this thing maybe happening for the third time, it's clearing it out. It's clearing it out. Sometimes we have to repeat something multiple times to clear it.
I
And
love
that's
that
the way it
perspective.
goes. So
Thank
it's
you for
like,
that. Because I don't think, I mean, I definitely didn't think of it that way. And I'm literally in my head replaying a pattern that happened this morning that I could be frustrated about. But if I came with more compassion and said, you know what, this was the last clearing of the pattern. This was the
mhm.
last bit of energy that needed to leave for the situation to be done for good. I am going to adopt that perspective moving forward because I think that is really beautiful. And to your point, comes with love and comes with compassion first instead of us. And I talk about that a lot that we need to come with more curiosity, with more compassion, and with more love. But here I am not showing it to myself. So thank you for calling me out.
Yeah, and one of the breakthrough insights that came through for me last weekend, because I did sit with ayahuasca last weekend, was that to, and it's not revolutionary, but
But it is if it takes you to a different level of awareness,
but it
right?
the way that I processed it was okay. So like we always hear like trust your process, trust your process, trust your process, right? Like that's so cliche. We hear that all the time. But to really understand and connect to, especially again as a new earth leader, I'm talking to new earth leaders right now. When when you are going through a cyclical pattern, when there is an unraveling happening in your life, right? Trust that there is a sacred process unfolding within you. Any type of crumbling or things happening, jolting things are happening for a purpose. There is purpose to your pain. You are being led somewhere. And the more that you allow this process to unfold instead of clinging, resisting, fighting, raging, and you just say, okay, there's a clearing happening in my life right now. I'm going to do my best to allow it to, of course, we want to still try to be strategic and like, but allow this to unfold and trust that I'm being led somewhere because there is a very sacred process unfolding within
Yeah.
you. And it is leading you somewhere. It is trying, it's conscious. This force is conscious and it is attempting to help you grow and it is attempting to move you into alignment with the path that you came here to walk. And so, yeah, just like the breakthrough was trust your process, but like in a really deep and powerful way to like even when things aren't quote unquote going the way that you wanted, or especially when things aren't going your way, actually, to trust that they are going your way,
Yeah,
actually.
that it's crumbling for a reason, or that there's actually something better, more aligned, something that
Exactly.
your mind can't even fathom, like coming your way. Like I do believe that, and I think energetically, you've got to make space, and you're always going to be going through, right, the light and the dark. And I think, as much as the Akashic Records is light, I think it allows us to sit in our darkness, or it allows us to see our darkness with a lens of love. And I think that
Oh,
perspective has been really, really helpful. And just the coming back to the frequency of love. Because to me, that's what the records are. It's just the infinite potential of love for you to love yourself, for you to love others, for you to love all the things around you. And so, I've loved this conversation. I think I'm really inspired now to look at my patterns and my cycles completely differently and to really trust my process more because to your point, everyone has their own. And as women, we're always alchemizing, right? Every single month with our period, with the moon
mhm.
cycles, with all the things that are happening. Before we go, any last advice, guidance, like things on your heart that you want to share with folks? And then, of course, please let us know what's happening in your world and how we can find you.
Yeah. I think that just kind of reiterating that as you draw more light into your body, it is going to shine and illuminate those spaces and places within you that are still carrying some shadow. And it's a beautiful thing. And also just like embrace that as it comes up. Um, you're shaking things up to the surface to be seen, to be witnessed, and to be cleared. If you are looking at it then you're on the right path. You're
Yes.
seeing it. The awareness of it is the very first step in healing it. And so, yeah, the records are going to help you illuminate and to just align with like the truest, highest expression of you.
Mhm.
And then yeah, if you want to find me online, you can find me on Instagram. It's Michelle Multidimensional. I do have a group program that I run at least twice a year. We'll see, I might run it 3 times next year called Heal in the Akash.
Yes.
And it is a 2 month program. Right now, we are doing a 30-day personal devoted practice for the first 30 days. And then the second 30 days, we're doing readings for each other. So you do graduate from the program with the ability to do readings for others. And I'm
Yay.
kind of toying with the idea and looking into what it would take to also add on a certification piece to the program where I'm certifying people in uh, past life regression therapy as well as past life parts work, which is kind of my own thing that I
Ooh,
started
but
doing.
that's awesome because I think together, past life and your past lives come up a lot in the
Yeah.
Akashic Records.
And then
So it
also
makes total
off
sense.
Earth memory recovery. So like galactic regression work. So I'm figuring that out. So by the two, I don't know when people are listening to this. So with like in the next year, I probably will have that added on to my program. So
Yay. Well, we'll have to keep our eyes peeled at Michelle. You're always sharing knowledge on Instagram. You're always really, I feel like, open with your channel, which I'm so appreciative of. And I'm just so excited for us to continue becoming more light, for more folks to find the Akashic Records, because absolutely anyone can access them at any time. You don't have to be magic. You are already multidimensional. But thanks so much for being here, Michelle.
thank you for having me.
I can't wait for everyone to meet and hear you. Thanks for being here, guys. Be good to one another. I'll see you next week.
Yeah.